A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Sorenson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance podcast, the podcast that retains people as well as the Huddersfield Town at the moment. Boys, I'll still feel the burning of failure long after this season is dead in the grave, the complete lack of perfection which caused my will to decay. And if the darkness of fear will defeat my gain, then you may as well kill my hopes for next season, while some hope still remains. Beneath my veneer of compassion cowers a suffering soul, and in my heart a burning anger slowly taking its toll. Town season, pale chill of death as it suffocates the light through the pieces of panic from being total shite. Below the surface of my anger lies a festering fear, fed by the resonating hate from every word that I hear. You bled me dry until I had nothing left, so now the nightmare is to end. I wait for the sweet embrace of this season's death. And here we are, boys. Thank the stars, it's over. Thank you, everyone. Literally, the season of hell has delivered the worst possible Saturday you could imagine. Town battered by Romani Edmonds, Green and co. The chest wankers win the league with the 600th injury time goal of the season. And then even Bradford City fluke their way to meet us next season with one of the worst points totals to get automatic promotion for 27 years. Liverpool win the Premier League and Forest could yet get Champions League to make this one of the worst seasons we've ever had in terms of hating other clubs. Next season, we've got a mountain to climb, so I've got with me Ian Kilimanjaro and Richard K2 Kosmala. Boys, what a shit day. What a shit season. Shit.
Matt, not for me, mate. I had a cracking Saturday. I had an absolutely wonderful Saturday as my boys managed to bring home a trophy to Huddersfield for the first time in 35 years. So personally, the day started so well, nothing could ruin it. But I am very, very, very happy that at least the rest of everything else is over with. I have, honestly, Matt, I think we all deserve a round of applause for being able to get this podcast through from August and July with the preseason games to now, because it has been a slog at times. As much of a slog as watching Matty Pearson running backwards yet again, chasing another striker that he's not going to get close to any time this year. I am delighted it's over, Matt, and looking forward to getting through this one so we can start to look forward to moving on to something that must be a little bit more positive in next season.
Kosi, you look fuming, mate. You just sat there, you're stewing,
yeah, mate,
not moved, raging.
Talking about Stewart, mate. I mean, obviously we were there on Friday. I'm sure we'll touch on it later on in the pod. But I needed a reminder why Huddersfield Town is close to my heart and what it means. And sat and talking to some of them guys on them tables who love the club, and the ultimate guy who's going through hell, and obviously delivered some amazing times. Great video put together by you, Matt. But I kind of walked out of there thinking, you know, that's what Huddersfield Town's about for me. The friendships, the brotherhoods, the players that care, that give a shit, that, you know, that it mattered. Some had so much. This guy lived in Dewsbury, which saying no more than that. No offence to anyone who lives in Dewsbury, but then it didn't take quickly, did it, for another day to come where we were ashamed to be Huddersfield Town. I'm ashamed to anyone that asks me who I support. I'm ashamed now. And you should never be ashamed of who you support. You should always puff your chest out. Obviously, you know what I'm like. I'm all over Yorkshire with different sports, but people know I support, and I don't want to tell them. I don't want to wear my shirt. I don't want to, you know, kind of. I get, you know, it comes in cycles and all that lot. And obviously, it doesn't help at all what happened on Saturday with other teams. But it's a shameful situation, isn't it, where we have seen a lap of honour. I can't remember. There must have happened in other clubs and we just don't see it. But people are saying you're not fit to wear the shirt. Like people have walked around the pitch, and then you've got other people clapping. I think that just shows how confused everyone is. You've got anger, you've got people clapping, you've got people not even there. It's upsetting, and I'm sick and tired of Kevin Neagle putting stuff out, saying this, that, and the other. I'm sick of it. It's just words of bollocks, and I'll cast some of mine back like to the start, and maybe I should watch some other pods and stuff. But the Peterborough one, the Peterborough game, the pre-season Hospital when we looked good. Just the optimism really that we thought we'd kind of finally got rid of that mental stuff that
the monkey off the back, wasn't it? The mental
ballet. It was sunny tea time on it in Peterborough. Everyone was saying Nancy Evans looked at the player, and just to end in that state, it's shameful. It's sad. It's shocking. The emptiness of the stands, and then it's almost like, I know every club does it, but it's really we like stuff like the 20,000 there. Just the comedy just is non-stop at Huddersfield Town, on and off the pitch, and I'm ashamed to be Huddersfield Town at the moment. And I know there'll be people saying we should never be ashamed of your club, but I'm ashamed to be associated with Huddersfield Town. And the one thing as well, I don't think it's got the national attention that it should have. Our slip. I think obviously there's other bigger fish to fry, bigger stories. Orient obviously is a nice story, but it never really got touched on, I don't think. It's like, there should be like a national inquiry to it. It's like, how can we be from where we were in January to where we are now? But it's like, people just think, oh, we've dropped out of the playoffs. No, we haven't just dropped out of the playoffs. We've lost 7 out of the last 8, sacked an head coach. We sacked a spot. It's almost like, to me, the story that's not been covered further up. Maybe people revisit in the summer when no one's got anything to write about. But we obviously have to report on every week, Matt. But I know I've gone on one here, but I'm just so mixed up, frustrated, sad.
You've just done a season review.
I
think that's next week.
Yeah, you've got to laugh, but like honestly, what happened with Bradford and Leeds, it's just incredible. It's awful, and I can't say enough how much that is just everyone else. You speak to people being there, people putting their money into the club, people sponsor boxers, people, local businesses and stuff we were chatting to on Friday, and everyone's had enough. Everyone's had enough of everything, and I just don't know how they get these people back on board. It's seriously bad, and the one thing that really stood out for me with the game on Saturday was the lack of boos after the goals, the lack of people going like that, or going like the anger. I didn't see anyone with any anger. People just accept it. They're accepting that we're losing 4-1 at home to Leighton Orient. They're accepting that. That's it. This is what we're about. It's disgusting. It's absolutely shameful, man. And I'm just so glad it's the last game. But the work that has to be done at this club is unbelievable and scary. And the 3 that have come down, they're going to be strong. We're in an absolute shit mess, man. And,
I'm not coming.
I'm worried we could go again, Matt. I'm really worried we could go again 14th, 15th, 16th next year, mate.
Well, over the last 23 games, Huddersfield Town, so that's the second half of the season. So if we'd have started the season at that point, Huddersfield would have finished 3rd bottom with 5 wins out of 23, 3 draws and 15 defeats on 18 points. It's absolutely pathetic. And we'd have been 4 points adrift of safety to Exeter, who absolutely tupped us the other week without a recognised striker on the pitch. So only Shrewsbury and Bristol Rovers have been worse over the second half of this season than Huddersfield Town. Birmingham, obviously, top. Stockport second, who look pretty good as well. So fair enough. Let's have a look. We'll go through we'll skim through the game because a lot of people saw it. A lot of people watched the highlights. I don't think there's anything that we can add which would bring any sort of light onto what's happening on the pitch. So we'll just quickly go through the goals. It was nice to see Josh Koroma bowing out with an assist. He straight away within 2 minutes. I was walking up the steps. So my son Charlie goes to swimming, and his swimming lessons at 1:15 on a Saturday, and then 1:45 it finishes. So I have to get him changed, dressed, and then shoot out from Leeds over to Huddersfield in time for kickoff. Sometimes we make it. Sometimes we sat down before it kicks off. Sometimes it's just kicking off as we're walking up the stairs. And we were walking up the stairs just as Dan Aggie scored. And I saw him doing his stupid dance that all the kids do because they've seen FIFA. And I was just like, this is going to be a shit day today. And then I saw it on the highlights. Josh Karoma it's just a mentally checked out player just under-hitting a pass because his brain's none of their brains are functioning at the minute, or none of them give a shit. And it was just simply an under-hit pass on his left foot, and such a token effort to chase it back as well. And you just thought, pathetic. A nice little ball across. Was it Jamie Donnelly who played that ball across? And Dan Aggie. So I had a conversation about him with somebody who works within football. I think everyone knows who that is. And about strikers who could platform Joe Taylor, basically. And he mentioned Dan Aggie weeks ago, and I was thinking, he's that big lummox who just fell into Mikel Miller and put him out for 4 months. He's crap him. I saw him on Saturday. I was like, bloody hell, he's pretty good. He'd walk into our side. He'd be an absolute monster. And he was good, wasn't he, on the day? But just an awful first goal killer, that. And it just, as soon as that went in, it was just like, you might as well just walked back out because you knew exactly what was happening.
I think we can all understand now why Karoma doesn't bother using his left foot and he likes to cut on his right foot. Because honestly, he's been here, 6 years? And I can't remember too many opportunities that he's taken on his left foot. It doesn't happen very often. And the thing that got me with it, Matt, is he did all hard work. Like, it's a town corner, and we concede 2 goals from our own corners in this game, which must be some sort of record. It normally happens once every now and again, but twice in a game is ridiculous. He's done everything right. He's regained the ball. He's turned back. He's looked across his line to make sure there's no one chasing Chapman down if he plays the ball back to him. He's under next to no pressure, and he hasn't even undercooked it a bit, has he? He's hit it about 10 foot, but to me, looking at it, it looks like he's got a clean strike on it. It's not like he's whiffed on it and he's mishit it. He has just underhit it to the max. And like you say, Matt, I thought Donnelly was fantastic. I thought he put probably in the best performance in that game of any creative midfielder I've seen this year, and that includes Birmingham. Anyone that we've faced. I thought he was phenomenal, and we will likely go through the goals, and he's involved in nearly every single chance they had. I thought the front three of Orient with Kelman, Aggie, and Donnelly were fantastic, Matt. I thought they were the best front three we've faced. They were fantastic, and they had everything. They had pace, they had height, they had intelligence. The passes were crisp, and not just to feet, but in front of the runner. Everything they did was through design, and it looked. Do you know what? Within a few minutes, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the way Orient played. They just looked like a proper team that played in a proper way going forward, and they just had us all day from the first moment to last. It was a bit like, even if we would have got ourselves back into the game as we did later on a little bit, they always had another gear to step up to. They just felt like they were there to win, and it's not even that we didn't try. And I think this is where I struggle the most with this game, is that we've had games where guys have been on the beach, we spoke about, and they look like they're not interested. I didn't actually feel like that in this game. I thought everyone kind of did put it in, but we're just not good enough. We're just not even close to being good enough. And Orient looked like a team a couple of divisions above us, just toying with us. And when they wanted to turn it up, they just could. It was good play by them, controlled, calm, and they're fighting to get into the playoffs, or to stay in the playoffs at this point. And a few minutes in, they've got the first chance, and like you say, Kelman's beautiful little ball or was it Donnelly at that point to Aggie to finish off? It's just everything that we're not. That's everything that we are not with that first goal for Orient. And for us, you just can't give a team like that chance a few minutes in, can you? It was the first moment of a few as well, Matt, where you can look at Jacob Chapman and think, should he have come out to meet the guy further up the field, or did he do the right thing running back to go to try and reset? I don't know.
I think Chapman's probably one of the not one of the first ones you'll question for that first goal, in all honesty, but he is for the second, Kosi. I've had a discussion about Chapman on Discord recently, and it's not. I'm trying to put this politely, but I'm basically not much of a fan. In all honesty, I don't think he's particularly good enough for this level. Not for a team that wants to get promoted. It might be in 12 or 18 months. It might be. So he's definitely a good number 2. But that's not great, is it? The second one, the cross comes in. Shame we don't have Phil Senior on the podcast, because it takes some heat off him from Darlington from 2004, doesn't it? The ball comes in. I mean, Matty Pearson does give him a small shove, but it's not enough to. I don't think it's enough to make him do what he does. And I mean, he's just joined everyone else in having a stinker, hasn't he? To be fair, and it's. I think there was a good argument for testing Chapman out in these two games. I think now after that, I think there's a good argument for keeping him out of it so he doesn't get dragged down to the level of everyone else. Not fun, mate. That second goal.
Yeah, rubbish, mate. And I'm glad they give the goal, to be honest with you. But Premier League they might not have done it and that as well. But yeah, echo everything.
Pushes him.
Echoed everything of that. Matt, for me, he's a backup. He's a Joel Coleman to Danny Ward or someone like that of that ilk. Going back at, if he's our number one, mate, I don't see him a promotion-winning goalkeeper. Yeah, there might be improvement and stuff like that as well. I just think he did all right coming in, but for me, we've got to sign a number one keeper. We'll come on to probably retain list later on and stuff like that as well. But yeah, Paul, not a lot more to say that, mate. To be honest with you, in that as well. And yeah, again, it's all over the shop, and I can kind of, I keep for some reason in my head, I think like Nichols he's on the kind of release list or his contract's up, but he's not. He's got another season, but obviously you hear stuff about
another season. But I think he wishes he hasn't
and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I was one for banging the drum to bringing Nichols back, and obviously he's not really covered himself in glory, but that doesn't happen with Nichols. And yeah, 2-0 down, mate, and more people heading downstairs in the concourse ready for another beer.
It's important to pick out Dan Aggie going around Sorenson, though. Sorenson, honestly, he was like me in the garden, dribbling around kids. Like, I let him score a couple. Then I'm thinking, right, I'm not having this anymore. They need to be taught a lesson. And I'll just throw my weight around a little bit, dribble past him and just pop it in. It's like, yeah, nice one. We're back in this game. Dan Aggie goes around Sorenson like he is not there. It's embarrassing the way, how easy he does him. And it's not even the first time in the game. He's been done twice before at this point. And honestly, it's nearly double figures the amount of times he gets dribbled around in this game. It's the lack of physicality that Sorenson has to be playing as a fullback or as any defensive position is unacceptable. He's never going to be a defender, I don't think, that's going to be good enough to mount a promotion challenge because he's so weak when it comes to being run at. And Aggie did everything that a winger should do, but normally there's some sort of resistance. But with Sorenson, he gave him absolutely nothing. Chapman's attempt was ridiculous. It was like, we've seen it a bit with Maxwell against Tamworth earlier in the season, haven't we? But at least he got absolutely whacked in that one by Creaney from his Tommy Tonks long throw. Whereas Matt, the goal there comes from a failed free kick, but they regain the ball. And by the time they've put it back in, our defence is all over the place. They've got a 4-on-3 at the back post. Hoggy's kind of wandering around, not doing too much either. There's errors all over the place in there. It's just what we are, isn't it? It's just we're not. Whenever we have to. That's it. When we've got to reset, when we've got to suddenly readjust to something that's going on in the moment, we don't have that ability, and we've not had that ability all season. But since Duff's gone, it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And it was just another moment where the individual errors between Sorenson and Chapman are something you wouldn't expect at our local level of football. Never mind professional levels of football. It was just other moments that, again, Matt, it's not that I don't think they're trying. I just don't think they're good enough. And it was just another example of how far off we are at the moment.
Yeah, Sorenson's for me, obviously had the credit in the bank from their good first 8 games or whatever, but for me, he's easily been our worst player in 2025, and there's enough candidates. But for me, it just seems to be an attitude thing with him, Matt. The lack of fight, the lack of care to either pull anyone down, hack anyone down, just gives up. Number of games I've seen him when he's belting, shouting at people, other people, and stuff like that as well. He's got his lip out. He looks a real issue, and I keep hearing in another podcast I think there's a player there. I don't think there's a player there, mate, and I don't think. Again, I'm going to say Huddersfield Town promotion team doesn't have a last Sorenson in, mate, because part of me thinks, do you even play him as a wing? I don't think he'd even do that, but he's one with a huge question mark. But it'd be nice to have some Lincoln kind of perspective on it, because I'm sure, you don't.
Well, we did a signed, sealed, delivered thing with Lincoln, and they felt that they'd got a better player in Tariq. What's his name? Is it Dariqua? I can't remember what his name is.
Dariqua, yeah.
They had a better player than him, basically.
If you wind the podcast back against Stevenage and the early on, but obviously it was always attacking play. We were waxing lyrical, but a huge disappointment. And then the trouble is, it's like, you think the next season and looking at some of these names, thinking, I mean, he's a real one. I just, with a big question mark, I really don't know what to think and stuff and that as well. It's.
I don't think he's been quite as bad as what you said, but he definitely hasn't been good. I think there have been worse in the team. I don't really want to name them. I can't be bothered. I slag them off every week, so I can't be bothered going there. But one thing that I noticed, which was so bizarre, and it really highlights that. And Killer, we talked about this at half time, didn't we? And it kind of just highlights how bad the camaraderie is and how bad the team spirit is. There was a point, I think we were 1-0. I think it was only at 1-0, and Matty Pearson pinged the ball to Joe Taylor, and it went about 6 feet above his head. And instead of either trying to jump with the defender or turn in to put pressure on the defender, he just stood there and stared at Pearson for like a good 10-15 seconds. And that's quite a while when it's on the football field. I mean, it's not in normal walk of life, but on a football field, for him to just ignore everything going on and just stare at Matty Pearson for a good 10 seconds while Leyton Orient played on behind him and knocked the ball. It just said to me what a terrible state this whole bunch is in at the minute. And today's retain list couldn't come soon enough, and we'll talk about that later. But it was just such a bizarre moment. And another bizarre moment, Killer, as well, was at 3-1 with the corner that you noticed with Koroma. We'll talk about the goal first, but we'll lead on to that as well. The goal is basically a ridiculous highlight. I mean, we've kind of sheltered Worthy from some criticism on this because the players basically, on the pod in recent weeks, because the players basically aren't doing anything for him at the minute or doing anything for themselves or each other. But he has played a high line, and having Pearson and Turton so high was pretty suicidal. And on that third goal, Pearson, Turton, and Hogg all turn around and blame Jacob Chapman for not sweeping up behind him. But for me, I'm not entirely 100% convinced that that's Chapman's fault, and it's basically another lost in transition moment, Killer, where you've got two slow defenders stood on the halfway line and a team that can just ping the ball over the top of them and have someone chasing through it. I think everyone's giving up, including Worthy with the tactics, to be honest. I think I looked at that and I just thought, everyone's giving up here. I don't have a clue what's going on anymore.
The third goal is awful. We've just shared the image of how the goal came about in our WhatsApp group, and Town have kind of got the ball down, like I said, the right hand side, and it's just Kasumu breaks down. They were getting the ball through Donnelly, and straight away Pearson's 10-15 yards in Leyton Orient's half. Turton's wide and high again on Agge, and it's embarrassing. That football's unacceptable. I don't understand how that can be acceptable. Like we say, Matt, something happened afterwards that I thought tells a lot about how not only we're breaking down on the field with people getting upset and angry, and like you say, Pearson and Hogg gave Chapman an absolute bollocking after that third goal. The pair of them went over to him and gave him a rollicking. In that, Pearson's chasing back Kelman, is it, at that point, and he's shouting for Chapman. And I can't ever remember seeing that before, where a centre-back, he's in a race with a centre-forward so early that he knows he's not going to get back, that he actually beckons the keeper to come out. Never mind that the
never seen the defender shush the crowd while he's got the ball at his feet either, though, do we? So we're seeing lots of firsts from...
not to then be given the captaincy a few days later. No, Matt, we don't. It's unacceptable. It's just another thing that's an absolute circus in our football club at the moment. But quickly, the Koroma goal I thought was fantastic. I know people have got issues with Koroma, and I think I support him. I like him a little bit more than most, but when it comes to his output of goals when he starts up front, this year he started 22 games either as a centre forward or a wide guy in the front three. And in 22 starts, he scored 11 goals. And you can say whatever you want about his effort and his attitude and potential fitness. I think people have been suggesting that he's not match fit at the moment. He still scores more goals than either striker we've got when he's given the starts. And that's a fact. If you look at this season, nobody else scores more goals than Koroma does if he starts as a striker. And that's going to be a big thing for us to replace when you look at our most recent track record of signing strikers of Radulovic, Healy, Ladapo, Taylor, and Charles. So you're losing Koroma, but you're getting there, guys. It's not great form, is it, when you're looking at being able to recruit? And of course, we've got a new team coming in and sorting out, so it might be a little bit different. But that's what Koroma gives you: a bit of fight, a bit of battle in moments, not all the time. But the goal was all on him. It was a next to nothing ball from Johnny Hogg. In fact, quite nice actually, wasn't it? And Koroma did well to get a lucky bounce off Beckles' head. It hit him first, didn't it? And then Koroma went in. But that third goal was just awful, Matt. But like you say, shortly after that third goal goes in, we're 3-1 down. Town were defending a corner. Orient have gone up the field again. Normally we have 11 men in the box, but Johnny Worthington beckons Koroma to go out up to the halfway line to chase the game, and that makes sense to me. I think that makes sense to most fans. And Michael Tong got off the bench and shouted to Josh Koroma, tell him to go back visibly against Worthington's orders. That's how it looked to us in the stand. There's a few of us sat around. That's exactly how it looked from the Riverside upper. And Worthington just turned around like Taylor did to Pearson earlier on, Matt, in the game, and just stared at Tong. But Koroma did go back. And when you've got, to me, what looks like such a visible altercation and disagreement between the coaching staff, not only the players on the field that we saw again after the third goal earlier on, it just screams at a circus. What an absolute joke this has become this season. And from that moment on, the full-time whistle couldn't come soon enough. Luckily, Johnny Hogg got taken off pretty early after that. We gave him a really nice round of applause, and you could see everybody leave. Everyone just started their exodus, and pre-season for them was the next thing to come. The season was over once Jonathan Hogg went off for a minute.
Yeah, I think a lot of people went home at that point, didn't they, Killer, as well? I mean, it's a good finish from Dan Aggie, we should say, shouldn't we? The third goal, he whips that in the far corner. Chapman's got no chance with that. Koroma's goal is lucky. Beckles kind of like heads it onto Koroma's shoulder, doesn't it? And it goes in. But to be fair, if he'd have given up like Joe Taylor and stared at someone, then he wouldn't have been there to do it. So, he's put himself in the situation, and he's got lucky. And that's 4 goals in 4 games for Koroma, which is the longest goal-scoring streak of his career. 4 in 4. He's never got 4 in 4 before. He's got 3 in 3, or he's got 3 in 2, but he's never had 4. He's never been 4 games in a row without scoring. And some people have called it a Simon Baldry syndrome, but I don't really think that's the case. I don't think he's played well enough to be classed as a Simon Baldry, because I don't think he's played particularly well. He's just managed to get some goals, which is, funnily enough, something he wasn't doing earlier on in his Huddersfield Town career. He was either completely electric and scoring goals, or he was completely shite and doing nothing. And now he's kind of off colour but still scoring goals, and you kind of sit there thinking, do you know what? That'd be quite good if he then had those purple patches, but he's been released, so never mind. The Worthington incident was very strange, wasn't it, with this Scarborough warning, wasn't it, across to Michael Tong? And there's a lot of people think that Worthington is basically a front man for Kevin Russell, and Kevin Russell being Mark Cartwright and Jake Edwards as Wrexham guy, but I don't always buy into I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, I'll be honest. But I mean, goal 4, it gets worse. And I think Ethan Galbraith's a player. I think he's excellent. I really like him. I've said this for a while. I'd quite like him at Huddersfield. Not that he'd want to come at the minute. But he gallivants away down the right hand side. Herbie Kane. There's a lot of people think Herbie Kane's tried to pretty much break Galbraith's leg, but that's completely not the case. There's a good angle actually from behind the in with the Leyton Orient fans, and you can see Herbie Kane brings his leg alongside Galbraith to then try and flick his back leg with his. The reason for the lunge is basically Herbie Kane can't keep up with him, and that lunge is to try and get closer to try and flick his ankle away. And it's standard shithousery yellow card tactics, but it did look really bad, to be honest. It looks even worse on the highlights when it's side on, but when you see it from in front, you can kind of see what he's doing. But away goes Galbraith. A cross comes in, header. Could Chapman do better again? I mean, we maybe not. Just another crap goal, mate. Just another crap goal. Cos is fuming at this point. I think he's getting redder as we talk about these goals.
But a crap goal, but when I've last 4 or 5 games, the one thing that it looks like is like, it's like when Sky, sometimes when you just don't want to watch any adverts or just want to get down to the nitty gritty, when you put it on plus 12. But the other teams are like on speed, like plus 12, and we're on like -4. And part of you thinks, yeah, unfit. I can't believe it as unfit as it's showing. For me, it's just a will thing. Not asked, not interested. Don't want to track back. So many of them goals, like you see Turton trying to rush back. He's not going to be able to do anything at his age.
Turton and Aggie was pathetic, by the way. Mentioned that to be on the last goal, but that was just pathetic.
You just know, Herbie Kane's not exactly an athlete, is he? Well documented. What we say about his his way, but just pathetic, really. And the speed of Orient compared to us was just so evident. But part of you thinks is that, like, say, is it just people just clocking off? And yeah, horrendous. And how many's in the ground at that stage, Matt? 6,000, maybe not that.
Yeah, maybe, but that'd include 2,500 Orient fans, wouldn't it? Probably about 3,000 town
It's
fans.
unbelievable. The prices going up like they have done as well on the back of this last month or so, and that as well. But yeah, awful ending. It's over. The season's over. Careers are over. Jonathan Hogg's over. Just sad. I just put a tweet out there. It's just sad. Normally, I put a tweet on that uses all the characters that you can use on a tweet, but just sad times. Simple as that, innit? You can use all you want. You've got your videos and no, not fit to wear the shirt. You've got your videos. I know you took a picture, Matt, of must have been like 75 minutes where it looked like there were 4,000 in the ground, or you've got, like you said there, you could have put that video of Tong overruling Worthington and stuff. Where do you pick your saddest moment at the moment at Huddersfield Town? It's soul destroying. It's absolutely, when you see this played out in public and stuff, you hear about stuff, don't you, behind the scenes, but when you do invisible stuff like Taylor staring at stuff that we've described tonight, it's upsetting, really, because I know we're not naive enough to think we always, everyone gets on and everyone's like pulling for the badge and stuff, but go back to that Jacko picture, like, wear this shirt with, what does it say? Let me not misquote him again, but
wear this shirt with honour and pride.
Honour and pride. It's just gone. And we're talking about shirts worn by the coaching staff here as well. That's gone. And
Jack Wolfskin's gone. Yeah.
Oh, I think obviously, the players that have been released, but it's the upheaval is just huge. But it's sad to think that, like, we were all thinking this season were about promotion, and all I'm thinking now is just having some pride back in as a football club again. And no, I should be thinking about we want to go to the Championship, but he's been ripped away from us. The fall has been unbelievable, not just on the league table, but just like just the culture and the attitude and the people that you speak to have been like there for years. And I'm done. And honestly, as it gets near, you always think, yeah, some people will renew, and it's so sad. It's so sad, and it's just exaggerated so many times as well, don't it? Just by, like you said at the start, Matt, with Leeds and Bradford doing so well because they've got their pride back in their teams and their cities and their football clubs again, but we aren't. But we've lost so much. Even just the games, it's the players not even running, people arguing. Wow. It's terrible, mate. And yeah, it's good to see us in top half of a table for a change. So let's look up positive, innit?
Yeah, if Lincoln didn't win and we finished 10th and not 11th.
I found a positive, man. Oh, God.
It's the lowest finish. Lowest finish since 2007 when Andy Ritchie was manager.
Andy Ritchie. I think the thing is for me, and with that, Matt, though, that the Andy Ritchie thing, it just felt he had like some really average players, like, and we were stuck in a rut. We couldn't get anywhere. And obviously, when Dean come in and give it a boost with his money and etc. But this is a bit of total opposite, to be honest with you. To me, I suppose it transpired that we have ended up with some average players, but you look at some of these CVs of some of these players and the players of the years at the other clubs, and
should have been better. They should have been better. Should have been better. I won't accept people saying this has been a terrible squad. Individually, it's not a terrible squad at all. That otherwise, why would the bookies have had a second? You always say, don't you? The bookies aren't stupid.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they might have been this season, but individually, the players were fine. The manager was fine in Duff. What was wrong was obviously the culture and the cohesion behind the scenes, and that's something that you can't see and you can't always count, isn't it? When you're a fan with only a little limited window to see things through. But it's very obvious that over the last 3 years, the senior pros, and I've said this for years now, that the senior pros at this football club continually let the club down because they're the ones who have to set the culture. They're the ones who get hold of your Sorba Thomases, your Jack Redonis in the dressing room and give them a slap when they get too above, too big for the boots, etc. And they're causing issues for Mr. Brightonwriter, etc. And then they've not done it. They sit there and they go into business for themselves and look after themselves. And that's all they've done, all these lot. And I'm glad to see the back of them. I am. And I like some of them. I like Tom Lees. I think he's a good guy. I think he's been a brilliant signing for Huddersfield. I like Hoggy. Obviously, love Hoggy for what he's done for Huddersfield. I'm a little bit sad, and it was really strange, wasn't it? Because we've talked for ages like that. Maybe this is the right time to say goodbye, and then it happens, and you're like, oh no, and you feel quite sad about it because it's really weird because he's been part of us or part of what we've discussed since the very beginning in 2018 when we started the podcast. He's been a player for 12 years. And it is sad because you do become connected with him. You do become a little bit... you feel like he's not a member of the extended family or anything, but he's someone that you see every week, isn't he? And someone that you grow to like and grow a real fondness for with how he played on the pitch, especially when he was in his prime. You know, he was the king of the second ball, wasn't he? You know, winning those second balls and recoveries, brilliant at it. And to see him leave, to walk off, wave and walk off with his family is sad because you know it's the end of an era, and I don't think you'll see a lot of players like Jonathan Hogg anymore. And I think for about 20 years in the future, I think a lot of people will go, "Do you know what this Huddersfield Town team needs? It needs someone like Jonathan Hogg." And I think you'll get that for the next 20 years because players like Jonathan Hogg don't really exist anymore. I can hear Pozza in the background saying, "Thank God for that," because he was never a fan. But I think we'll miss him a lot, and I think we'll continue to pine for a player like him for a long time as well. However, we're not talking about Jonathan Hogg now, or we weren't supposed to be. It's to the Patreon we go, and the comments from you lovely guys who are members of our Patreon and now our Discord. We're also on Discord for the Patreon subscribers. Hudders Mad says, again, I'm glad I missed. Had a lovely day down here. He lives in Portsmouth. Final game of the season for me too. Looking forward to a nice, relaxed couple of weeks before the new stock comes in. Actually excited about the new season now that all the dross is over. This is obviously until Pearson, Ruffles and Turton get new contracts. Smiley face. He's actually, I think he's an assistant kit man at Portsmouth is what he's on about there. I think it's Ben. Dino Zoffo4 says, Chapman nowhere near a number one. Nichols saves 2 of those today, possibly 3. Neo is miles off it too, although I liked his youthful exuberance. Every single position needs an upgrade, which is a massive concern. 11 first teamers needed, a manager, a director of football, an identity, a direction. A big summer ahead. Killer, you weren't overly enthused with Neo Eccleston either, were you? I liked his enthusiasm. I thought that, but I just felt that, again, it was tactically he shouldn't have been playing on the right of a 3 in defence because he's not a natural defender. I felt like it was a bad decision to play him there. Not that he's been hung out to dry. He's supposed to be by trade a defender, a right back, but he's much better going. He's one of those that is much better going forward and much better in a like a wing back role than anything. So for me, if you're going to throw a youngster in who's not great at defending, then don't make him do a lot of defending. You know, put him on the wing, put him wide right, and just protect him a little bit. And I think because that didn't happen, he got caught out quite a lot. There's a couple of times he sort of fell over and they got inside, but you couldn't fault his application, could you? It was just, I just don't think it was maybe the right thing to do to put him in that role. But then again, we had one defender on the pitch. Who do you put in there?
No, I think you could have swapped in for Kasumu. Pretty straightforward there. I think that's something you could have possibly done. Yeah. Well, I think if you put in Eccleston there, Kasumu would have done no worse, Matt. I thought attacking wise, he's okay. He had a chance from a header where he got up really well at the back post, and he should have probably scored or made the keeper work harder than he did. But again, Matt, we're playing against, for me, by Birmingham. But when I talk about teams in League One, I think you have to just ignore Birmingham because of what they've spent. When you're looking at front threes, I think Leyton Orient have got the best front 3 in the division, right? Do you put in an inexperienced guy against that next to Ollie Turton and Matty Pearson? And if you do, can you actually expect them to do well? And I do think he was hung out to dry a little bit, not intentionally, but unfortunately, when you're in that position, Matt, he doesn't have the experience to lean upon to cover Turton and Pearson. And they ain't good enough at this point in their careers to cover any mistakes he makes. When somebody young comes into the team, you normally get an experienced guy next to them that can help them out, lead them through it. But as we've said, Matt, the senior pros at our club this year and for the last few years don't act like senior pros. Like you say, Matt, they're a bit like Hulk Hogan going, it don't work for me, brother. It doesn't work for me, brother. That's it. They look after themselves and not the team. And that is the problem. So putting Eccleston in there, in that trifecta of shite at the back that we've had, came in and came out, and with Chapman, who looked very inexperienced again, like I say, Matt, quickly just going back there, the goals may not have been his fault in that he couldn't have come out because of his starting position. But to me, Matt, his starting position was so far off. It was too deep for that. But that he could have been higher in the field and then could have probably come and collect the ball a little bit better. But again, he's an experienced centre back who's doing his best to bring everybody with him. Would have said, Chappers, step up a bit, mate. Come out a little bit further. But that doesn't happen with our team. And I think Eccleston fell into that as well, unfortunately for him. I hope this hasn't damaged him. We've seen it before, generally with keepers with Schofield, where they've been thrown into situations that's not been great. I hope Eccleston hasn't got that fear. And to be fair to him, I don't think he has, because like you say, Matt, he still looked good going forward. But a bit like with Royce Ruskin, we played him a lot higher than we kind of expected, most of us, when he came in, that we thought he'd play as a defensive kind of wing back or a full back if we went to a back four. But we didn't. We put him in as a wide forward, and it worked really well against Crawley. For about 25 minutes, and then obviously he got injured not long after that, and that was it. But I think Eccleston would have been better given that treatment, Matt, like you say, where he can play high and wide. So. Don't worry too much about the defensive duties here, because A, the defense isn't great, and if you're a part of that, unfortunately, you're not going to learn too much apart from how not to defend. And B, Orient are so good up top, it's going to be a challenge even in a good defense. So I'd have played him higher. It's nice that Worthy gave him a shot. I think these were the right kind of games to do it. It's just from what we've seen, there's nothing that you can really say that he's ready for a starting spot next season. But then it might not be his fault, because the tools around him were tools, unfortunately.
Matt, the thing that frustrates me so much, and it just won't go away, it's really nagging at me. And I've got to be honest, I've used it maybe to have a go with it and a little bit too much. But you were mentioned there, Matt, right? I'm just thinking, again, it goes on my... He's always going to come out stuff the Wagner, but I remember that season of Wagner coming in, mate. I'm sure we lost 5-1, I think, at home. The last game of the season, I'm sure, and we were absolute shite. Yeah, we were absolute shite. And I thought, wow, where are we heading here? But for me, Wagner were doing all the assessment in them games leading up to it. That kind of probably, that I can see that about a few players now. But at that point, we had a man in there who's like made decisions on players mentally. So that last game, and you could see some stuff coming together. But at that point, I just walked away thinking, Jesus, is David Wagner the right man here? And obviously, we brought in 8 players and loads of captains and the rest of the history. This is where it pisses me off with this, Michael Duff, and I know he devised it, but that could have been exactly the same situation there, mate. We could have all this pain coming in, Duff knows. But when I look at it now, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, right? We've got, obviously, that release list has been devised by someone, whoever's done it. But you'd have had a man there who would have known, throughout that pain, what we needed, who needs to move out. And you see that list today and you're thinking, who's made this decision here? Because we haven't got, like you say, we've got, how many players do we need? It just seems a ridiculous situation. We've got no director of football, no head coach, all these players going out. But for me, Duff were that man to kind of move it on into the next season and stuff. I just can't get my head. It does my nutting, Matt. I just can't get it. He should have been the Wagner. I'm not saying we'd have done with it, whatever, but he should have been the Wagner kind of figure where they should have just said, look, stuck by it, because you could, all right, you might not could see stuff as evident as you could Wagner when you saw that, some of them early games, thinking, wow, this, with the possession that we had and all that lot. I hold my hands up for that. But for me, it just beggars belief that decisions being made on the contracts by who though? What is it? Is it by Cartwright? Is it like some old notes? Who's made these decisions today that these players are out? Nagel?
We'll come on to that soon. We'll come on to it soon. You jump in the gun as always, Cosmala. Let's finish the Patreon stuff. Phil Ross says, happy days, this season is done. I thought Eccleston was a bright spark of enthusiasm. Glad Hogg got a good send-off. James B says, it's a fitting end to the season. I'm excited what happens this summer, but we need so much. Can we get it right to be at least competitive next season?
Matt, to steam back in, but Eccleston, we're hearing words like enthusiasm. We're happy because someone's got enthusiasm. That's how shit the bar is, low the bar is. Eccleston's got enthusiasm, brilliant. Even though you're crap on the day, he's got enthusiasm, so we're happy. That is sums how the low the standards are, mate.
You're right, mate. Phil Cosby's like one.
Brutal, Cosby.
I haven't been on for 3 weeks. I've been holding this in.
He's been stewing. He's sat there red Cos. The hunt for red Cos-tober. Right, Cherry Jack says, thought Karoma gently passing the ball about 5 yards on the halfway line as a pass back. and Kane attempting to injure a player at 3-1 down with nothing to play for, missing any contact and conceding the goal, summed up our season pretty well. Hogg's been a very good servant for the club, and I doubt we'll see another player stay at the club as long as he has. However, today reassured me that he has to leave. I'm not a fan of him shouting at younger, more experienced players, or lesser experienced players, but less Karoma Pearson turn. I get a lot of in the moment stuff in football, but we need new leaders, not just shouting at people. I'm fairly convinced a lot of these players hate Joe Taylor. Not sure why. I can't shake the feeling. Club needs a complete reset, and I'm not sure that will happen either. Probably the lowest I've ever felt being a Town fan. At least there was hope after getting battered in the Prem every week. Wyndham says, the defending was laughably bad today. It almost looked like match fixing to throw away goals like that. The complete lack of recovery pace and strength is so noticeable. Mark Harrison says, defending seemed a bit of an afterthought today, not prepared to do the hard yards collectively. Does anybody think something happened in the last international break? Because we have gone from poor to disgusting. I'm telling you, Matt, we traced this back to when Kevin Nagel came over in January. Something. That's when it all went downhill and everything went funny for Michael Duff. Then Jax posted the interview with So Jax then posted the interview, with Joe Taylor, and the Joe Taylor interview where he talks about pretty much the lack of culture at the club, and he kind of says, "Oh yeah, Worthy's been great, but there's no culture and nobody's telling us what to do." And it's like, well, he's like, "Are you throwing Worthy under the bus or not?" It's like almost like the Frank Lampard meme. Wyndham says, find it hard at this point not to lay some of the blame at Worthy. Taylor clearly implied something was wrong with the leadership. Ultimately, it was Worthy's job to bring leadership and structure. And even though that was difficult, it's very clear the wheels have come off. Josh Armfield said, I said we'd lose by 3 goals, and yep, bang on. Not even surprised anymore, just tired. Glad the season's over, if I'm honest. It's been a shambles from start to finish. Players strolling about like they're doing us a favour. No pride, no fight, no shame. We've not just failed, we've been pathetic. And yes, I'm still angry, still upset. Wish I could stop caring, but it's my club. It gets under your skin, doesn't it? Meanwhile, the Leeds and Bradford lot in my family are loving life, buzzing, hopeful, and I'm here picking through the wreckage of the worst season we've had in years. What a joke. What a waste.
Well, that sounds like a family of... God, that's rude to that. Family of hell, but God, mate, if you've got Leeds and Bradford in your family at the moment, it's a bit that. Coming back to that, Matt, I'm sorry, it might not be popular opinion, but if Worthy had got into the playoffs, he'd have wanted all the glory. So, bollocks, it's not on him. No, not all of it on him, but I'm sorry, the leadership, he's overseen this absolute disgrace of a run-in. So, yeah, all right, he's been handed a bad set of cards, but for people to say none of this is on Worthy, sorry, mate, no. You took the glory to getting us in the playoffs. You've got to take the brickbats for how bad it's been. But Joe Taylor, the kind of there, he seems like he needs a manager who's like proper.
He needs David Wagner, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does. Because he's only being honest, and Hoggy I'm not saying naughty, but I watched the interview and Hoggy's clever, I think, at kind of getting people in a day and age where footballers don't say a right lot. He's good at angling for stuff and that as well. But yeah, I think it's just sheer frustration, Matt. But at the end of the day, although you want chasing him on Saturday, but if you're just chasing aimless punts, week in, week out, when you've arrived to score the goals to get us into the championship, you're going to get a frustrated kind of reply. And obviously I saw a few messages coming back saying, well, talk about professional, what about your weight and stuff? So yeah, just summed up the season really, just a bit of a nightmare interview.
Just finishing these off as well. Aidan G says, ready to see the backs of so many of these players. Then there's an argument about who sacked Michael Duff. Just like scroll down a little bit. And we've got Chris says, what gets me is how unprofessional some of these professional footballers have been. Making mistakes is one thing, but it feels particularly for the last month or so that some of the squad have actively not put a shift in. It's not just been individual mistakes, but attitude towards the game or the club, but some clearly don't care. No, I've paraphrased that. No matter what they say in the media. I just don't understand why you would actively go out of your way to not do your best or look competent. Even more so when every performance can be watched over and over again, unless you've been told you aren't required anymore. Unfortunately, there are seemingly no repercussions for underperformance. This lot just carry on like nothing's happened. How players can come out and say they have no direction or structure to buy into. There's 10 games to go to get promotion. What else do they need to buy into? And then we'll probably call that there because it kind of drifts off into a little bit of a discussion about other little things. But
don't you think, though, Mike, if you've got the right kind of characters and attitudes and stuff, you used to say the best teams sorted it out themselves in the dressing room or sorted it out themselves on the pitch, and we just got everyone just blaming each other and stuff like that as well. It's just
like I said, they've all gone into business for themselves, and I think it's obvious that it's like a self-preservation act, where pretty much all of them just put their hands in the air and say, "Not my problem." This, when it clearly is, and it's clearly not a.
Imagine Warnock getting into soon with some of these. Jesus, and it would be all hell on, man.
Well, I don't know. He's a mild-mannered old man these days, isn't he? But
you watch that Guardiola video there, bloody hell, yeah. What they must have made of him on that training grounds.
Let's talk about Jonathan Hogg. Let's talk about Hoggy. We mentioned earlier about how sort of sad it was there for Hoggy to go, but for me, it's the right time for him to go. I think if somebody comes in and offers him another 12 months, I think it's the wrong move. I wrote an article that's been posted this morning, which discusses the leadership group, where I kind of mentioned that basically the experienced pros in this team have failed the group of players for the last couple of years, and it just needs new leaders in the dressing room to push these players like Joe Taylor on and to sort of police them a little bit. I just think the last thing that you need is someone in there who's been there for that long who just says, no, this is not how we do things at Huddersfield Town. Well, the way we've done things in the last 3 years has been a complete shit show. So they need to sort of move everyone on and basically, whether we like it or not, move everyone on, and that includes Lee Nichols as well for me. I think if we can find a move for him this summer, it'll be wise to do so. And then we need completely new leaders in there. We need to go out there and try and sign captains, and then like we did in 2016, and build from there. But for me, I think we'll remember Hogg fondly. 410 appearances, amazing. I don't think there's many in there where you could kind of finger point and say he didn't put 100% in at that point or any. I don't think there's many that he can. Maybe Spurs away in the Premier League, that was a bad one. But I've asked Patreon for their favourite Hogg moments. I tweeted out that one of my favourite moments was Bristol City away in 2017, where it's like an innocuous. I think he falls into Mark Hudson. It's quite innocuous, and then he goes off with a suspected broken neck, misses one game, and he's back in the team for Norwich. And I think at that point, Hogg was so important next to Aaron Moy in that midfield, so important that we just felt if he wasn't there and Dean Whitehead had to play, as much as we like Dean Whitehead then, but the problem, he didn't have Hogg's recovery speed, he didn't have the ability to get the second balls like he did. Had Hoggy not been fit, I think that would have been season over. It was so important that he came back in, and the first time he came back in, he played 82 minutes against Norwich and we won 3-0, I think, which might have been our biggest league win of the season, possibly. But we beat Norwich 3-0 and Hoggy was immense in there. He missed one game and he was in I think it was like the neck fracture clinic or something in Bristol, like the week before. Phenomenal, really. You guys got any favourite Hoggy moments that we can go into? The celebrations at Chelsea, maybe, or anything like that?
Yeah, that Chelsea, obviously, they're that nightmare looking down from the top tier. Iconic, I would say that, Matt. I was desperately trying to find that video because I remember, obviously, when I was doing stuff for Radio Yorkshire, they took interest in us that season, and I remember someone putting a video on with that Jonathan Hogg, and they said you had to be an Huddersfield fan to understand like what this means to like the fans. It was almost like just iconic moments, stuff and that as well. And yeah, the other thing, Matt, who was the spat that God, I always forget this player that injured him, and then he went in.
Harry Arter
went that Forest game, mate. When we were in the Championship, well, how he never got sent off that. It's unbelievable. But to me, we're almost like ending an argument. It was just for me that was like I know X-rated. It was in a day and age you don't see much like that going on now as well.
He's done it a few times. Yeah. I think it started against Cardiff in the Premier League. I think Harry Arter got Hoggy sent off, didn't he? In that 0-0.
Yeah.
And then I think Hoggy pretty much hated him since then. So the first opportunity he had against Harry Arter again, he went in quite hard, didn't he? And it was pretty much like Roy Keane. It's like a
Yeah.
low-key Roy Keane on Alfinger Haaland kind of moment, wasn't it? Where he just went in and went, "You're having this."
Goals at Blackpool, Matt, that were quite amazing. He didn't score many. Obviously, the Barnes one will be remembered, the late winner in the promotion season as well. But again, I always going on about it, and I put that video on, but I know it's not even to do with Huddersfield Town. But for me, what sums Jonathan Hogg up was that the Dean thing, because I know it's a Watford shirt, and it's got nothing to do with us because it happened before, but I think it just summed him up, that why was he even in that position? He was giving everything he could, like, for his team to win that game, and unselfishly edged the ball across where someone else would have tried to volley it or whatever and that as well. But I know nothing to do with Huddersfield Town is that, but I think it just showed all the characteristics of that man. And the mural, Matt, there's not going to be many Huddersfield Town people that, you know, we've mentioned years ago in this podcast, weren't we, about we should have some of these murals up because we're, you know, your good friend Burley Banksy, you were kind of jealous of the stuff that he was producing, and lo and behold,
Mate, it was my idea before that Chesty started doing stuff in Leeds. I were on about it before. I used to, a mate of mine, Tommy's got this, who I sit with at games, they've got this massive painting that, who's the guy with that does the gene stuff? Is it Ian Berry? I think they got him to do, he's a Huddersfield artist, and they got him to do this huge painting of David Wagner on the bus. And it's this huge thing that they had in their works office. And I always thought, you know what, this would look amazing on the side of the George Hotel or somewhere like that. It was done straight after that. And unfortunately, that dickhead in Leeds with his stencil started doing all this rubbish stuff, and we were sort of caught lagging. And now it just looks like we're copying a little bit, doesn't it, if we do a load of this stuff? Because they do actually have a couple of decent murals, don't they, dotted around.
Leicester have got some good ones, but obviously Leeds will say they did theirs first. But just kind of going back to talk, Matt, I just going that Bristol one. I just remember thinking that I thought at that moment when he's supposedly broken it, that Huddersfield Town could not win promotion. It's incredible to think one man, and you know, but I honestly believe that we were done. We were finished. The season was over. If Hogg was out for the season, he was that key, mate, in that season, like you said, with Aaron Moy, and the boost it gave everyone. That was such a huge moment. It was incredible. And again, I don't know if this is imagined, but a couple of people tweeted me says, "Oh, it just was a scratch." I don't know if he said this in an interview when he were kind of, "What, he meant to be out for the season?" But yeah, just Geordie boy, and yeah, unbelievable player. It has been sad to see a little bit of his decline. He's kind of mirrored the club, hasn't it, a little bit the last few years and stuff. And yeah, seen people shouting at people, but I guess we've all been frustrated five-a-side players over the years where we know we can't do what we used to do, but we get frustrated and lash out when we shouldn't do. But yeah, just
could never do it anyway.
Unbelievable. And you know what? This is an unpopular opinion maybe, but I know they were the Radio Leeds interview or the press conference one, and said, you know, if I'm offered something that I maybe, you know, coaching wise, but I just hope he gets away. Just gets away. Goes for a start. I think he'd get a 2-year deal at Donny Rovers or something like that as well. If he's up for it,
played up at Hartlepool or something.
Yeah, does the body want it and that as well? And then who knows, maybe
Harrogate, something like that.
But yeah, but I just think we love trying to get these oldies back or to stay. Effley's obviously been mentioned and what have you, but just mate. I think the thing is just so sad that he went out like he did with 10,000 Town fans in there on Saturday. But like anything with a great player that leaves your club, you just only have the best memories for me. And that Chelsea one, mate, when it's on that advertisements with a body as good as mine, top off, and here, there, everywhere. Just the Chelsea fans thinking, what is this about? This is Tim Pop. For me, mate, that is our iconic moment for me.
Silk, man, do you have anything?
I can't beat that from Kosi. Obviously, I was away for such a long time. My memories of Johnny Hogg are a lot of them are through the TV, unfortunately, because obviously I only came back 2-3 years ago while he's not been at his prime. But as iconic of a Town player as Andy Booth for me, and will always be remembered for being like that. I hope he doesn't sign a new deal with us. I think I'm with Kosi. I think it's time for him to go and do what he wants. I'm just really, really worried, Matt, that there's a 12-month deal at Bradford on the cards for him, because I think he'd do a really good job there for a team fighting to stay in League One after returning for the first year. And if he did, I think we'd all be very, very upset. But that's how I just feel. I just feel it kind of fits very well. And anything apart from that, I'm delighted with. But no, what a guy. I just think I'm with you guys. I think it's the right time for him to go his own way and for us to build again with an entirely new heart, because he has been the heart of this club for so long, and we'll never forget you, Johnny.
Matt, we will do if you sign for Bradford.
Yeah, 12 years down the pan, isn't it?
I'm going to get that mural down. I'm going to paint over it.
I know. So I've turned to Patreon, and Eddie says his goal against Barnsley at home in 16-17 had a cracking view from the FM upper as he stuck it top bins, bro, in added time, the start of something very special. Terry Jack says Hogg versus Harry Arter. Mark Harrison says rising from the dead at Ashton Gate to drive our 2017 promotion. This is where I need the Undertaker bells, don't I, Kayla? El Bubio says probably not something anyone else would have spotted, but it was my admiration for his work ethic. It was one of the pre-seasons in Austria. Hogg had just finished playing the first 45 minutes where they subbed the whole team off. And early second half, we got a corner, and in the background on camera, you could see Hoggy deadlifting in the warm-up area. What a machine. And do you know what I remember as well? And when Wagner took them away to that deserted island, where they had to fish and do everything for their own, I just remember hearing stories that Jonathan Hogg was pretty much like Bear Grylls while the rest of them were useless. And I could just imagine he was like lost, like running around and getting water for everybody and like doing the fish like Castaway, Tom Hanks, where he's got the spear in the water. It's like Hoggy's just like with his spear. And I imagine Hoggy would have been brilliant on those things because I think he'd have fed everybody and led them all around. Hudders Mad says, not really football in memory, but just spending the time around 20 to 30 minutes after every game talking to the fans, whereas some players just head straight on. That's just a mentality thing. He's a legend. Footballing wise, probably a niche one, but Southampton away when we lost 5-3. He had a shot from outside the box that went miles wide with no pace on it whatsoever, but because it was him, we all loved it. Colin Frankchat says, his chest and volley versus Blackpool when we started to put together the bones of a very strong 21-22 season. I think he also nodded in a late winner at home to Millwall as well, which was prolific for Hoggy. And then Dino's off 04 says his performances in the first Premier League campaign, where I honestly thought he should have been in the England squad. That combination of Moy, Hogg and Billing were some of the best memories when it comes to Town playing well. It's been a long, long time since we did. I have a slightly more contrarian view of Hoggy in the Premier League. I thought it was pretty good off the ball, but I thought a lot of teams doubled up on Aaron Moy and let Hoggy have the ball on purpose because they knew he wouldn't be able to do anything with it. But it was pretty good off the ball. Right, let's move on. But Jonathan Hogg, I think we've got lots of time to talk about Hoggy in the future as well. Just a quick one as well. Kosi and Killer, we all went to the Terriers versus MND event, didn't we, on Friday night, which was fantastic. So I want to say a big thank you to James from the See It Now group for inviting us down. We did pay for the tickets, don't worry. And I just want to say thanks to James. It was a really good event. And Marcus Stewart, I was kind of worried, Kosi, when they said Marcus Stewart's got M&D, and when you think of M&D, you think of Doddy Weir, you think of Rob Burrow, and you think about all the amazing things Kevin Sinfield does for his mate and continuing to do for his mate, and you just thought, I hope Marcus Stewart's not like that, and he's still kind of got his wits about him. And within 30 seconds, it absolutely murdered Rambo, where Rambo made a mistake and Marcus Stewart went, "That's why you got sacked, mate." It was just phenomenal. It was just like, from that moment, it was sharp, wasn't it? It was funny, it was sharp, it was brilliant, and it was fantastic to see him on form and been really good, really cutting. And it was good to see all the others that came. Ken Moncow came, Clyde Vineyard came. Thankfully, he wasn't wearing shorts. They had who else came? Chris Lakay, Chris Beach. I think we need to have a word with Chris Beach about after Saturday as well, because he's at Fleetwood, isn't he? So I think we need a good, strong word with Chris Beach. Yeah. Anthony Barry, the England assistant manager, came. He was very good as well, wasn't he, Anthony Barry? Along with, I think it was Chris Cohen from Yeovil, from his Yeovil days. And there was one more, wasn't there? But I can't quite remember who it was. But brilliant. It was just a really good night, really well put on by See It Now group. And honestly, if you ever see any events come up from them, go to them. If you ever thought about going to them before, go to them. They're really good, really, really good, and really enjoyed it. And we even got pictures, didn't we, Kosi, with Marcus Stewart?
Yeah, I got a picture of Ian Kilroy before, award-winning manager Ian Kilroy, just outside.
Men in Black's Ian Kilroy with his sunglasses on.
Yeah, totally echo all that, Matt. It were brilliant, and obviously, sadly, he can't hold a pen now or write an autograph, but his spirit can't be undiminished, mate. Exactly like Rob Burrow, mate. He will fight this till the end. But one thing I said to him at the end when I got a picture, that I was being a bit cheeky, but I said, Marcus, thanks for all the goals you scored for us. It's great times and that's all. But there's one thing that I'll always remember you by. And I'm like, what's that? It says, how did you live in Dewsbury for 3 years? They said to me, Dewsbury, what a place, mate, when he had the old me and pods for the photo. But yeah, God, I've used Dewsbury twice now. Hopefully no one's...
Dewsbury. If you're from Dewsbury and you want to complain, at Richard Caswala on social media.
So, but, yeah, amazing, mate. And
sure, he lived by Dewsbury Moor, didn't he? It's Dewsbury Moor, isn't it? Do you know where in Heckman Dwight, where you split at the traffic lights and you take the right as you come from Clicketon and it goes around Dewsbury Moor. It was what was the pub called? Was it what was it called? Woolcroft or something? I can't remember what it was called. There was a pub on the right there. And it used to be a similar pub to a soap opera, but he lived behind there in the new builds.
You were good, mate, and obviously you're too modest to see it, but you put together a great video, Matt, of all his goals, which obviously we've had on the YouTube site for a bit. The one thing that stood out for me, and obviously talking 30 years ago, which makes you feel really old, but the style of the goals, mate, so many different varieties, even headers. Just fantastic. Just a type of striker. You know, I'm thinking maybe
Rob Edwards. That was who else was there. I forgot Rob Edwards. Sorry, Rob.
Fantastic.
But yeah, Rob Edwards said that, didn't he? He said, "Look at the goals he's scoring. There's headers, there's tap-ins, there's ones from outside the box, there's left foot, there's right foot, all over." And do you know, if we'd have been able to ask him a question, I think I'd have said to him, "In the modern game, where would you have played? Because it's so different now, isn't it? Where would you have played? Would he be one of those attacking midfielders like a number 10? Would he be like one of those wide strikers that would cut in on his left foot? I wonder what it'd be like. Or would he have played up front? Because he could hold the ball up a little bit, couldn't he, Cos?
Yeah,
but it'd be interesting.
Cameron were great as well, wasn't he, mate? But again, it was a good escapism for obviously horrible illness, and a good escapism for us as town fans to kind of get the bubble in your head, thinking those were the great days, and you know, and it was interesting, wasn't it, Matt? That he said that the season of the Great Escape, he'd removed it from his mind, and everyone were quite shocked at that because, like Chris Beach said, one of the greatest achievements because we were so poor, and it's really weird. It's interesting how different footballers like.
I thought that was a really good mindset, that, because he pretty much sort of said, "I don't remember anything that's rubbish. I remember all the things that's good," and that's kind of like that was like that's a winner's mindset. Is that you focus on the good? It's almost like Happy Gilmore Killer. You remember Happy Gilmore when he's like, riding the bull, harness the good, push out the bad. You know, that Happy Gilmore is talking to the other golfer. And it's almost a little bit like that, isn't it? Where you remember the good times. And if you ever listen, or if you ever read the Dan, I think it's a Dan Abraham's book about sports psychology, and he always says, you go through all the good things in your head before games and go through all the good moments and all the ones that you did well and focus on what you did. Don't bother thinking about the ones that you didn't do well in. Focus on the ones that you did. And your mind and your body will repeat that over and over, and it's that's where that elite mentality comes from, and that's why he went on and almost almost played for England.
Rambo were in great form, but I don't want to end it on
It was fun. Yeah,
it
was funny. He never mentioned once about being sacked, did he? He was pretty funny.
I thought it was an absolute disgrace that they were known from the club there, representing the club. I thought it was disgusting.
I saw Nathan Clark at the end, but I don't know if he had been there all day. But it'd be a bit of a weird thing to pop up at midnight for, wouldn't it?
So that's different. But any senior figures at the club, I thought were absolutely disgusting. And they're keeping their head down and all this bollocks, mate. This is a guy suffering from MND who's been legend for Huddersfield Town, has travelled a lot of miles, to come to our club, and there could have been one or two senior figures there. I thought it would.
I thought DTS would have been there, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought Dave. I think it would have been if it could have been.
Yeah, and I think it just tells you everything you know about our club. There's a lot of people there who, have kind of don't come to the games now and stuff like that as well. But like senior businessmen and people that we know, they came there because they wanted to support Marcus Stewart and the club and MND. Where were our leadership people? I don't want to go on about it too much, but I thought it was disgusting with that, mate.
Well, Kevin Nagel's not over, is he? I think he'd have probably come, wouldn't he, Kevin Nagel, if he'd have been over. But obviously he's not in with us at the moment. Right, let's go back, because we've been going for over an hour. How have we managed this? How have we done this again, Killer? I don't understand what we do.
My goodness, I've expected 3 hours today.
This is therapy for you, is this? Because you've not been on for weeks, have you? And you're all over it.
We've improved so much.
Retained list. So I managed to write my article this morning about who I thought would be retained, who I thought would be released, and then the club decided to put out the retained list. Not like my article, breathe, and stick out the retained list. To be fair, I did have a bit of a nudge that it might be on Monday, so that's why I stayed up till 4 o'clock, Killer, doing that article. Wow. And then And then I got a phone call at 7 o'clock from my works out of hours service. I was absolutely raging. And I think that's why my voice is knackered now, because I barely slept. But yeah, so you can read the article on takesthatchance.com. Remember to sign up. It's a free one, so you don't have to pay us any money, which is always a bonus, especially when you're from Huddersfield or West Yorkshire, like us. The release list then. So released officially, Jonathan Hogg. No surprises, I don't think there. Danny Ward, no surprises. I'm going to start singing Radiohead in a minute, aren't I? Tom Lees. I think given Tom Lees' age at 34, I don't think it's a surprise. I think Tom Lees has been a brilliant play for us. And honestly, I think as a free transfer, Tom Lees has been brilliant. I think he's played about 150 games for us. I think he's been a great signing. If he was a couple of years younger, if he was 32, maybe 33 possibly, I think you could make an argument for keeping him. And I know we need to change that leadership group in the dressing room. But I do like Tom Lees. And I think if he hadn't have had a couple of injuries this year and he'd have been a year or two younger, I think it might have been consideration. But I do think he'll continue in League One next year, and I think he'll be really good for someone, Tom Lees. I think he'll do well for the next couple of years because it just proves that you don't need to be a track athlete to be a good defender. He's just a good defender, isn't he, Killer? He's just so solid. He reads the game brilliantly. Good leader in terms of how he conducts himself. I've really liked Tom Lees. I think during that first season in particular, under Carlos Corberan, I thought he was better than Levi Colwill. In terms of performances, I thought he was brilliant. Honestly, I thought he was our best defender that season. He was phenomenal. Harry Toffolo maybe, but he was more wing back, I think, at the time. But for me, Tom Lees was phenomenal that season, and he's been a great player for us.
I think he still is, Matt. It's just he's injured quite a bit nowadays, isn't he? I think he's got a little bit older. I don't think his game's dropped off. I think he's as good as he ever was, to be honest, Matt. He's one of those textbook defenders for me where they don't actually have to do too much visibly. You watch it and you can't say, that's why he's fantastic. That's a great block. That's perfect. It's not that. It's just when he's there, he organises everything and we just look so much better for it. It's something where it's difficult to explain why he's so good. But whenever we've had him in the team, we've always looked better and we always concede fewer goals. It'll be a miss. It's the right thing to move him on, I think, again, because of how much change we need and how we are, in my mind, in this full rebuild process. And this is, again, an Americanism where they rip apart rosters in NFL teams or NHL teams when it's not working and they start from the base again to try and get something thoroughly different. And whilst I don't like saying Americanized terms when it comes to English football, I think when you look at how bad our team is, it's the right kind of thing for now. And whilst, I think he'll go elsewhere, Matt, like you mentioned, in League One and do really, really well. And if our core wasn't as rotten as it is, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to keep him with us. But for where we are at the moment, it's a restart necessary. And he's just another part of the cogs where it's gone wrong somewhere. And he's been a fantastic player for us. And like you say, when he comes in on a free, you can't ask for anything more than what he's given. He'll be missed, but it's the right thing to do.
Same with Matty Pearson, Kosi. Matty Pearson, I know he's had a tough couple of months and he's had a love-hate relationship with the crowd. I think, the crowd loved him, didn't they, until a couple of months ago. They used to sing the Matty Pearson song, Matty Pearson Baby. In that first season, he was brilliant as well with Lees and Colwill. He was brilliant in the Warnock run as well. A lot of goals. He scored 5 goals this season. He had a really good run this season. It's just the last couple of months, he's just not looked right. Mentally, he's not looked right. And again, at 31, you kind of think, well, he's not mid-30s, he's early 30s, but he's played over 500 games, career games as Matty Pearson. He's played a lot of football. And he will go and be a good signing for someone, I think, in League One. Possibly Bradford City, possibly somebody like that. And I think he would, hopefully not, maybe back to Barnsley, possibly. I think that kind of fits. But I think Matty Pearson's been another brilliant... I take the last couple of months out. I think since he signed in 2021, so that's 4 years, I think he's been an excellent player for us and a doff to the cap for Mr. Bromby, who brought him in as well.
Yeah, he would have won if I was doing the return list. I'd have been sleepless nights over, to be honest with you, on that as well, because I think it's easy to look, like say at the last since Christmas, but God, you'd have about 2 players left, wouldn't you? I think if you were doing the return list on what was seen, but yeah, because part of me thinks, kind of a good manager who, gets the best out of him, like one, did obviously for the 8-9 games, and obviously Carlos did at the time. But then part of me thinks, is it that, good for a fresh start for him and that as well? But yeah, it all seems to me about attitude, Matty Pearson, and yeah, we've seen it running battles with a Killer Bank or Watford and stuff and that as well. But yeah, and part of me's wondered how fit he's been though, Matt, and whether he's carrying something in that as well. But so to be honest, mate, if he'd have gone the other way, we'd have offered him a 2-year deal. I wouldn't have been too fussed with that, mate. But yeah, part of me thinks he might come back to haunt us in some way with some bullet header. Hopefully not, mate. But yeah, it's one of those I can kind of see. Yeah, I kind of see why they've said no, and it's a ruthless return list, to be honest, a bit more ruthless than I thought it would be, and that's well, which so as we applaud as we move on to Corona, etc. But yeah, it leaves with my best wishes, and I always think good of anyone anyway, even if they've been bad at times. But for me, Matty Pearson will be remembered like many, mate, from that amazing 20.
He should be remembered fondly as well. He should be remembered as a good player for Huddersfield Town. He's made over 100 appearances.
Honestly, mate, some of his interviews have been great, mate, to the press conferences and radio leagues and stuff. He don't mince his words. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up, mate. Keep an eye on him, mate.
Yeah, Ollie Turton. So will somebody please check to make sure Stephen Chicken's okay? Ollie Turton was Steve and Dave's one of their favourites, and I can see why. A nice bloke, a nice professional footballer, but again, I just feel this season he's been pretty poor.
Too many.
Yeah, I think so, and I think I don't really class him as despite him being 32, I don't really class him as a leader as such. He's quite quiet, and I think we need more leaders in there at the minute. And that's not a slight on him. He is what he is. But I think Turton, he's played out of position a lot for us recently. He's a right back. He's a defensive right back all day long. That's what he does, and he's not really played that a lot for us because we've been playing a back three. But he's played right back, he's played left back, he's played centre back, he's played wing back, he's played all over the place for Huddersfield Town. And he's stuck. And he's the Michael Atherton of Huddersfield Town, because he's stuck on 99 appearances. And I think people who follow cricket will remember Mike Atherton used to get out on 99 a couple of times for England. So he's stuck on 99 appearances. But again, I think he's one of these players that will look back fondly after some time and say, do you know what, Ollie Turton, what a nice bloke he was. A good, solid professional, never really let us down. Always did did his best when out on the pitch, and I think he'll also do a job for someone. I think League One, possibly League Two, but I think he'll go on. And the same for Josh. Him and Josh Ruffles are pretty much the same, aren't they? Nice blokes, good pros, quiet, but I still think they've both got a lot to offer for the next couple of years for someone. Again, I don't think anyone would really say anything bad about Turton or Ruffles, just because they're such, when they're interviewed and when you see them and when you queue up with your kids to get autographs, they're just such decent blokes, aren't they? Nice blokes. And I honestly don't think anyone would wish either of them any harm or foul or whatever. I think they've both been solid and dependable for Huddersfield Town.
Yeah, I don't think they would have been a part of the problem at all. But to me, both of them, I think Turn's a little bit better than Ruffles, Matt. But of actually all the people on the return list that have gone, Turn's probably the one I'd have kept the most, to be totally honest. I think he's a bit like a backup keeper. He's pretty flexible over the back line. I'm not saying he's great, but this all comes down to financial issues, doesn't it? How much would it have cost to keep him? If he's cheap, then you keep him as a rotational guy and he can cover quite a few different positions. And he's quite useful as that utility player. But if he's expensive...
Swiss Army knife, I always call them.
Well, that's it. So it's important to know what it would have cost to keep people, I think, to give a fair and accurate assessment of who should be kept. I'm not shitting on this piece entirely, Matt. But when it comes to Turton and Ruffles, I think one of them being kept...
The official one. You're not shitting on mine, mate. It's okay. It's the official release.
But keeping one of them, I don't think would have been the worst idea in the world, because they do offer quite a lot of flexibility. But then again, the need to change everything is probably greater, so it makes sense. But I don't think neither were a major issue in the squad. It was just they don't give that much either. It's just like I say, there were backups, and teams need good backups. But maybe we'll find some elsewhere.
Josh Karama. I don't think it's unexpected. In the article, I do explain the reasoning why I would have released him as well. And that's basically when you've got a top earner that plays well for 6 weeks in a season or has a purple patch for 6 weeks or so, you can't carry that. Your top earners have to be consistent. They have to produce, and he didn't do it often enough. I will make a Josh Koroma goals compilation video because it'll be spectacular and it'll be very, very good. And I think it's one of those where I'll put this together, and I think he scored something like 25 goals or something for Town over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think when it's put together, people will go, bloody hell, he was good. Who haven't seen him play for us, they'll go, wow, what a player he is. And he was. He's a good highlights player, Killer. But consistency is not his middle name, is it? But I agree that he with his release. But again, this is one that could come back to hurt us because Abdullah is his middle name, by the way. But it's one of those where he might get a championship move. I could see, he was linked to a Millwall before. I could see someone looking at him and going, do you know what? We can carry him on the bench for whatever, 10 grand a week or whatever. And if he's playing well, we can throw him on. If he's not, then we don't need to pick him. I could see someone doing that because he offers, when on form, he offers a championship level goal threat. When he's out of form, he's very hard to stick up for, isn't he? But I could see that happening, mate. I could see him going up a level and a lot of Town fans being shocked at that, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm a huge Koroma fan. I think he's a cracking player, but he's very patchy, and we're in a situation here where we can't afford patchy players because we've got other patchy players that are contracted for such a long period of time that we can only have a few of them. So it comes down to squad build-up. I think Koroma's best as a striker. Or maybe wide in a front three, but again, this year, 11 goals, 22 starts. He scores goals, although if Taylor does this, Matt, and he scores in every other game but does very little else, nobody is saying, well, it doesn't do enough. That's the issue you get with Koroma. I think because of where he plays and the visible attitude that he has, I think it turns people off as well. To me, he looks a little bit checked out. I know he scored, like you say, 4 goals in 4 games for the first time in a long time. But even in these games, Matt, like you said, his goals have kind of come against the run of play a little bit. It's not like he's had loads of chances and taken one here, there, and everywhere. He's just taken the few chances he's got, which is fantastic. But you can't keep that up over a long period of time. He's not suddenly become a goal every game kind of guy. He's an expensive player, and for that reason alone, and for what we have elsewhere in the team when it comes to gaps, that we have to go out and sign about 68 centre-backs this year that can make a big difference in League One, because that's what you need to succeed. Unfortunately, I think it's the right time for him to move on, but I have absolutely zero doubt that he'll go somewhere else, Matt, and get double-figure goals. Maybe not at the Championship level. I think if he goes there, like you say, he'll be a bit of a turn towards to somebody else in the division above. But if he's a League One player next year, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't score 10, 15 goals, because that's what he can do. He's just in and out of games. And unfortunately, we need a little bit more now.
Scott High, we had a 12-month option on him, but we've not decided to take it. I feel a bit sorry for Scott High because there was a player there who technically was fairly decent, but physically, mentally probably not ready for what came, and he's one of these where apparently the fans have kind of destroyed his confidence a little bit, and all these messages that the players get sent on Instagram and social media and all over the place led to him basically struggling with his position as a professional footballer, and I find that quite sad, and I wish people wouldn't be such dickheads, to be honest, and I think people were dickheads to Scott High, or not everyone, but there's a small section of fans were dickheads towards him from the very first moment he walked on the field because of how he looks. He looks like a boy, doesn't he, in the man's game? And I think people decided straight away that they didn't like him because he looked like a little boy on the field. And sometimes he played like it. But I think a lot of people will deny that he played well on occasion. And I think under Carlos Corberán, he made a lot of appearances and he did quite well on occasion. But like I say, confidence completely eroded at some point, and he's ended up doing quite well at Halifax. And I think he needs to leave. He definitely needed to leave, and I think he'll go rebuild his career elsewhere.
Similar to Ben Jackson, in it, Matt. It just didn't work out for us eventually over time, and he did a bit of a move. And I think High's finding himself in that similar position. But anyone good enough for Carlos Corberán? There's a player in there somewhere. It's just not going to be with us because, unfortunately, for Town, for Town and Town players, when the fans decide that somebody's not right, especially when they're young, it's tough for them to win them over. I always quite liked Scott High, but we just need he needs a bit of a new start somewhere else because it's hard enough for any of our midfielders to make it work. Wilesy struggles, Kane struggles. Upenda came on against Orient, obviously, at the weekend. I think he played 27 minutes, and somebody said he had 3 touches. So we're not a team that really builds for centre midfielders either. So I hope he gets a decent deal in League Two somewhere next year and can push on because, a player for Corcoran, there's definitely a player there somewhere, and hopefully he can find somewhere where he gets good enough time in a good enough unit in midfield for him to develop properly.
Kosi, your favourite, Loic Aina, is no more at Huddersfield Town. You'll always have Preston away, won't you?
It's a shame, mate. Yeah, move on, but never happened, mate, for him, and that was one of the most, I think, obvious contract decisions.
Anthony Gregory, I don't know who that is, but he's been released. Danny Isaac, a young striker. Donald Garrick has left from the B team as well. People may remember his brother who came, I think they're from Ossett, the Garricks, and his brother ended up scoring for Swansea. And I think everyone was like, how have we missed this guy? He went to Huddersfield New College, he's from Ossett, etc., etc. He's now playing for Forest Green Rovers, but his little brother, Donnell Garrick, has been released. Oliver Reaver, the goalkeeper's gone. And unfortunately, there's going to be no Zach Abbott for Huddersfield Town because he's been released as well, which is a shame because that would have been a lovely story seeing Pav's lad break through with us. Foppy Deru has gone. Kean Philpott has gone as well, which was a little bit of a surprise because he's only really just sort of come from Man City. Connor Falls had a 12-month option. He's just not kicked on at all, has he? When he was 18, I think he was really highly rated. I think Bloggy Potter, when he was on, was talking about how in Northern Ireland, Connor Falls and Connor Marshall were pretty much almost not quite neck and neck, but very close in terms of how well they were thought of. And Connor Falls, unfortunately, just hasn't kicked on over the sort of 3 years he's been with us. But we wish him the best of luck. And same with Michael Stone. He's got again another one of those midfielders with technical ability, but maybe a little bit slight, and he's ended up being released. I'm sure everyone wishes the very best for the boys. Chris Maxwell's retired. Ongoing discussions regarding a new contract for Neo Eccleston. I think he's got a 12-month option as well as Eccleston, so I think we can trigger that anyway. He's 22, I think, as the season starts, is Neo Eccleston, so he's probably not as young as maybe some people think he is, but he is 22 at the start of the season. Tawanda Chirua, Joe Hodge, Nigel Lonvak, and Callum Marshall all return to their parent club from loan. Would you keep any of those boys? I would. Any advances from you guys? I would keep if there was a cut price deal to be had, and I wouldn't go out and pay full amount for them. Nigel Lonvik and Callum Marshall would interest me if you could sort of get them on a cut price deal. I think both would have benefited from a full season with Huddersfield Town, and I think both will go on to be better next season for it, especially Callum Marshall. And young strikers are so hard to get and so hard to come across that. I think he started the season at 19 years of age, Callum Marshall, which is young, and I think it's easy to forget that strikers don't mature. I mean, especially at the moment, strikers are maturing around 31, 32 at the minute. So I think given the amount of time that he's got to develop, I think if there was a cut price deal to be had, then he would be very smart for us to pick up. Not to be the main man next season, but to be one of the crew, if you like. But other than that, any advances from you two?
No, it just gives us a chance to just do what we need to do. Can we do it? But a bit more ruthless than I thought, like I said, Matt. But I just wondered who's made the decisions. That's all. That's all my question is.
We don't know, do we? Silky, would you keep any of the loanees, or are you quite happy with?
I'd have Marshall back for another year on loan. I don't think we'll be able to sign him permanently, but I think he offers something a little bit different to everything else that we've got, which is surprising because he's the same height as everybody else. He's not that physical presence, but he's got a bit of doggedness that Lee Novak. I know he's lazy, always comparing strikers to iconic strikers that we've got or had, but I think Marshall offers quite a lot in that regard. And I think it'd suit both parties for another year here with us. I'm not as high on Lonvik as yourself, to be honest, Matt. I thought there's elements to his game that are a little bit casual, and again, injury record not fantastic. So I'd be going out looking at getting lads with more games behind them to be at the centre part of our defence next year. And I don't think he'd be cheap. So again, it's a financial issue there. But no, it was amazing to see Tawanda Chirua on the bench again this weekend. He suddenly reappeared after disappearing for a few weeks. What happened to him? No, does anyone know where he was? Where he'd been? He's just fallen off the face of the earth and then suddenly reappeared. But no, I don't
fancy him,
think
does it? I think it's important to mention as well that Callum Marshall is the Huddersfield Town Blue and White Foundation Player of the Year and the Hargreaves Memorial Player of the Year as well. I to be honest, I didn't vote because I didn't think anyone really deserved it. And if I had have voted, I would have voted for Mikael Helik. But Mikael Helik was removed from the options despite him playing 15 minutes 15 times for Huddersfield Town. But there you go. I would have voted because I think once he went, I think everything was downhill. And he's the player with the highest win percentage out of everybody in the squad that's played this season. So I would have voted for him. But part of me did think after Jonathan Hogg's retirement was announced, I did think, oh, maybe people could have voted for Hoggy, and it's a send off as much as anything. But I think when I think that's okay when it's been a season where no one really deserves to win any accolades. I think that would have been fine, or Tom Lees or something. I think they've been fine, but. That's all I've got on my agenda this week, boys, unless you've got anything that you want to bring up. We've been going for like an hour and a half. I don't know how we've done this. But is it time to... Is the music playing, Kosi?
I think I'll end how you started, Matt. Thank God it's over, mate.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.